Hello, everyone. Hello. This is your host, Beverly Francois Alston, and welcome to the grind behind the business. Today, we have a special guest. His name is Pastor Norman Bishop.
Nice.
Welcome, Pastor.
Well, welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Yes.
It's an honor and a privilege.
Listen, I have known you for a long time, so I have a bio that I'm going to go over today,
Okay,
and just a couple things because it's
sure.
large. It has a lot of meat in here, and so I know that you have been doing this thing for the Lord for a long time. The
Hmm.
walk has been a while now. So I see here the first thing I want to bring up on the bio is that you started at Deliverance Evangelistic Bible Institute for
Yes,
20 years. My
20
God.
years I taught there.
Yes, under as a deacon
I served
under
that 10
Pastor
years.
Benjamin Smith. Now, I am not familiar with Pastor Benjamin Smith, but
Okay.
it's a name that is so known throughout the Pentecostal
Mhm.
world in our church and all of our church family, and even, amongst other churches that are in Philadelphia.
Sure.
Um, so, well, how was it being under Pastor Benjamin Smith?
Well, it was a honor for me. I was
Hmm.
there as a teenager. I was 19 years old when I went there. And as you might know, that Pastor Benjamin Smith was our pastor, Pastor Eric Lambert, and he talks about him a lot. And one day, this was kind of funny. I was young in the Lord, and I took his picture, and the way he looked at me, I never took another picture of him again. Because
Wow.
he looked at me and it was like, why are you taking my picture? I'm not a celebrity. I'm your pastor. And that always stood out to me. And
Nice.
that he was serious about his walk with the Lord. He didn't say pray. He said he prayed. No, so he said, listen, you follow me as I follow Christ. And if I get from following Christ, then don't let that stop you. You keep on following Christ. And so from a 19-year-old up until the present, with a journey the
Wow.
Lord has me on, like ups and downs.
Yeah,
I'm
because
gonna
after
be transparent with you. So all my listeners, let you know, Pastor Nolan gonna be transparent.
very transparent, because look, after being a deacon at Deliverance, you taught classes at True Light Fellowship Church and
Yes,
preached your first sermon there.
yes.
I
And I
do
was
know True Light Pastor Pinnock.
Pastor Penal. Yes, very
Yes, I do
sharp.
know Pastor Pinnock. Very familiar. He is
Mhm.
Pastor Lambert, which is my pastor as well. Always say that's our church family.
That's
So,
right,
yes.
absolutely. He taught
Um,
me Greek for about four years. He taught me Greek, and many times I was the only student in there, maybe one or two. And
wow.
he didn't stop it. In the beginning, whoo, the class was packed. But as you go on, year after year, the class would dwindle down until it was just two of us. And he didn't stop from teaching. And so I
That's
always
so
feel about
nice. Wow. Um, you said your goal was to help couples have a strong foundation
that.
and assist
Absolutely.
those who are in need. You went to school recently within the past couple years. Um, you went to get your master's degree
That is
in
correct.
pastoral counseling
That
at
is correct.
Liberty University. I know that was a challenge working, being one of the assistant pastors,
Hmm.
and on top of that, listen, you got a 3.0 5.
That's right. It didn't start out that way.
Hey, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Listen,
That was awesome,
my,
Pastor.
my
That's
first.
a challenge in itself. We have some comments, so we're gonna put some comments on here.
Okay.
Um we got Jazz who said hello. Hi, Jazz. Her name is
Hi.
Jasmine Alston.
Okay.
Jazz happens to be one of my close friends who read your book, so we're
Um,
going to talk about that. That's
okay.
coming up. The book. People are
Okay.
excited to hear about that, Pastor
Praise
Norman. And
God.
then I've got Pastor Valerie.
Valerie. Okay.
I
I
love
know
Sister
her.
Valerie. Oh my God,
So
Pastor
do
Valerie, you
I.
know I love you, right?
Yes,
She
such
is
a
such an
sweetheart.
encouragement and such an
Yeah.
awesome woman of God. Listen,
Yes,
she
she
has
is.
been encouraging me so much, and we need a Pastor Valerie in our lives. So, Pastor Norman, I have my little highlights here. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
read something, and I just want you to comment on it.
Sure.
So, on your first chapter, which is called A Solid Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
there's a quote that says, I have 3 questions for you. First,
Mm-hmm.
and you're talking about just what to look for
Right.
when you are about to get married to that
Right.
individual, correct?
Yes.
Right. So it says, I have 3 questions for you. First, are they Christian?
Mm-hmm.
Second, how do you know?
Right.
Third, what fruit do you see manifest in their daily life?
Right. There you go. Oh wow. That's a I try to make it self-explanatory as best as I can, but the problem is all the glitter is in gold. Sometimes the guys we say, "Oh, look at she's so beautiful. Look at her hair. Look at her shape." And the female, they say, "Oh, look, he's so handsome. He's tall, dark, and handsome." And so then, but that's not what you should be looking for. All right,
Yeah.
you have to investigate, and I use that. You have to investigate, and I mentioned that when you looking for a job and you put in that application, they're going to investigate you. They're going to investigate your credit. They're going to
Mm,
investigate your work history. They're going to investigate you. And at the same point time, you should investigate that job. What's
mm,
their turnover rate? How's their insurance? You have to investigate. And in the same way, you have to investigate with substance. You know, is this the person I can live the rest of my life with? So,
right.
is he a Christian? If he's not a
Mm.
Christian, and I over and over, they say, Pastor Norman, he comes to church. Well, the devil goes to church. So what was that?
Right, right, right. The fruit, though.
But the right, so you looking for fruit. In Galatians 5:22, it talks about the fruit of love, joy, peace, goodness,
Mm,
temperance, and all these fruit. Do you see any of that? Or do you see anger issues? Do you see a lot of bad habits? They say,
yes.
well, they'll go away once we're married. I'm sorry, they won't go away once you're married. They probably will enhance because marriage doesn't change the person that
Doesn't.
you are. If you
No.
married a selfish person, then you're going to be selfish after you get married.
Yeah, right.
If you marry someone who is mean, what do you think is going to happen? He might be meaner. Or if you marry an abuser, oh, I'm not going to hit you after we marry. Yeah, all right. Well, I'm not going to give you that opportunity. and and so so investigate the person you're going to marry.
Yeah.
Investigate.
All right, I got another one now.
Okay.
We must never depend on our partner to make us whole
Mhm.
or make us happy.
Yes.
Happiness is only temporary anyway. One can be happy one day and sad the next day. However, God gives his children joy, which speaks on inner gladness. Even when I had a car accident, I was not happy about that, but I still had joy. The joy that God gives is eternal, regardless of the present situation that makes me happy. When your water was shut off for non-payment, I wasn't I was not happy about that. I am just being transparent with you. However, I still had joy down in my soul and happy that my wife did not leave me. She showed considerable patience and care. 40 years later, she continues to show patience and care. And yes, it goes both ways.
Wow. That's a all right, Bev. Now that's a lot. But now well, you talking about some things that
Yeah, Pastor Norman, you
that's
wrote it. That's
that's all right.
that's
That's
even though it's self-explanatory.
okay.
This you can't get as plain as that.
Okay.
And I think it's so important to for you to say it. I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of people out there that knows what the right thing is.
Right.
That is just certain common sense that comes with human being,
Mhm.
nature and such, and growing up and understanding and seeing and understanding the world. But there are people who tend to need confirmation in order to say,
Mhm.
okay, should I do this?
Right.
And
As,
those are the ones that live on the edge. But
mhm.
it is important that they get someone like you, the Pastor Normans, the counselors, the people to validate and say,
Mhm.
yes, this is what it is. Because as you know, everyone's going to test stuff. We test
Right.
God all the
Yeah,
time.
that's right. Absolutely.
So this
And
is why it's important to understand this.
so
Yeah. I don't think
one
a
thing
lot of
you,
people understand that.
right. One thing you said was you mentioned about happiness is temporary, but joy is permanent. It's eternal. It's an inner gladness. And so I didn't need Rochelle to make me whole. I was already whole. She didn't need me to make her whole. She was already whole. And so she was happy with being Rochelle, just as I was happy being Norman. And so what a joy uh, when we became one uh, in the Lord. And so even when in the early stages of our marriage, I
Hmm.
was doing the best I could, but sometimes our water would get cut off, and I put it in the book. And
I
like,
read it. There was a lot of financial situations.
it was so
Yeah.
embarrassing that they would. I didn't tell. I think I mentioned it later on, but I was so in debt in those years, not because I was splurging money, but my mother suffered from mental illness, and I was taking care of her, paying all her bills. What a joy to do that for her. But and but my wife understood that I'm the son. I have to take care of my mom. And just
Yeah.
the same way when her mom was sick, she had freedom to go, and I would watch the kids, and she would go and take care of her mother. And so
Yeah.
that's part of teamwork. Teamwork
Mm,
is working together. One of the things
mm,
is that there can be no teamwork when the wife doesn't have a voice. And many times in my counseling sessions, the wife did not had a voice. And I had
mm.
to challenge that husband and say, you won't have true teamwork unless your wife has a voice. You have to work together as a team. And
That's
praise
so
be to
good.
God, we've been working together as a team and
Yeah.
do things together. Why? For the family. And may I say this, you
Yes.
know, I have my oldest son on, but our three children, they never went to school without from first grade until they graduated from high school. They never went to school without us having family devotion, meaning even if it's 5 minutes or 7 minutes of us reading the Bible to them and praying for them. Many times if I would do it, but if I had to be to work extra early, then my wife Rochelle would do it. And And so we did that from the time from first grade to the time they left for college. And that was so important to put in them godly principles. Now, Bev, I can talk, so you stop me anytime you want. You know,
I really
good,
do.
good.
Moving on to a next one.
Okay, go ahead.
Another couple requested marriage counseling.
Mm-hmm,
I asked one question: what is the problem? They argued for 1 hour, back and forth,
mm-hmm.
and I did not interrupt them. I listened. After the hour, I told them that they needed to get in the habit of listening to each other and stop playing the blame game. So, can you? That was really
Wow.
refreshing.
I, Bev, I remember like that was yesterday. I remember they came into the office and before I just said, "What's the problem?" Boy, did they go at it. And I felt that I would just listen and let them talk, and they talk for, they argue, not talk. They argue, they yelling, they were screaming at each other for 1 hour. I let them do that, and that's when after the hour, they probably did it for another hour if I let them, but I stopped them after that first hour, and said that, you know what, y'all have to y'all not listening to each other. Y'all arguing, y'all playing the blame game, and the reality is both of you are at fault. You're
Yeah.
not listening to each other. You
Mm,
making your argument, she's making her argument, you making your argument, and y'all not looking at each other's side of the situation. And so I I tried to say something, but they went over me.
But now, Pastor Norman, it's important that people understand listening can signify several, it can be several different levels of listening, right?
Mm,
Um, I listen and I hear something and I keep it moving. But am
hmm.
I listening? Listen.
Right.
And I think that's what is that what you're
That
talking about
and
some of
that
you?
was the
Because I
problem.
can listen and not hear anything that person says. I can be in a whole nother world while I'm
Mhm.
listening to you. Because I just want you to finish talk so I can move on.
And so why didn't they wasn't willing to hear or listen. They came to counseling, I guess, with their own agenda, but their
Mm,
agenda wasn't for me to help them, perhaps just to hear each other's side. But I couldn't help them because they wasn't willing to listen to each other or willing to listen to me. With all those years of counseling, I could I couldn't help them, and they end up getting divorced. And I wasn't surprised that they ended up getting
oh,
divorced. And so the reality is, as much as I strive to help couples,
mm,
I can't help them more than they willing to help their own marriage.
themselves, yeah.
And that was a big a part of my learning, that as much as I want to
Mm,
try to help them to have a strong marriage, you know, if they don't want that for themselves, then what can I do? I can't do that.
mm,
But when there's arguments, I mean bitter disagreements, it didn't it starts out with some couples by being disobedient to God. You know,
that's
God could say,
good.
God could say, I told you don't marry this man. I told you don't marry this woman. You didn't listen. He looked so tall, handsome. He looked like
I'm
Superman.
sorry.
And then I'm telling you, then it comes out that he was on drugs. Well, it's
Yeah,
too late. You married now.
you marry him now, you got to deal with
You
that, right?
married him now. and 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 then there. So in other words, disobedience is going to bring consequences.
Yeah.
All right, it's going to bring consequences, and so God is a loving Father. He wants to direct us, protect us, and he gives us correction. When we go off, sometimes we just refuse to listen to him. I'm marrying her, Lord. I don't care what you say. I'll suffer the consequences later. To listen to him. He
Mm.
gives us checks and balances.
He sure does. He
That's what
sure
I'm
does.
talking about in
He
our
sure
group.
does.
He
Yes.
talks about checks and balances. And
Yolanda says the
go
couple
ahead.
did not take off their boxing gloves before counseling.
Oh, that's right,
That's a
Yolanda.
good one, Sister
Hey,
Yolanda.
yeah,
And
that's
Sister
right.
Bernadette, Dr. Camp says, "Hi, Pastor North."
Hey,
Hi, Dr. Camp.
hi,
Her and
doctor.
her husband has an awesome nonprofit ministry that also
Mhm.
does counseling and helping people to better their lives. We have Jazz, who is still with us, and she says it's easy to leave when you are single and dating, but when married, there's work. Divorce is not an option. Marriage is not worth fighting for, and that's good, Jazz. That's a good estimation, and I love that. And I know Jazz has your book because
Okay,
she was
good.
one of the ones who I gave your book to as a present. Yes, Jazz got married last year, like I
Oh,
did. And
congratulations.
so she and I we pray together, and she's just an awesome support. You were telling us in the book how you had a
Hmm.
bad car
Yes,
situation, and the
yes.
car was really bad, and it was
Hmm.
getting older, right? And you said it was worn out with a hole in it. Smoke was everywhere. This could have been avoided if I had regular checkups on my
Yes.
car. Because I ignored having regular checkups on my car, it broke down. Do you know that without regular maintenance on your marriage, it can break down too?
Hmm.
Some understand the importance of regular maintenance on their cars by getting the oil change every 3 months, checking the
Hmm.
fluids and the tires. However, when it
Yes,
comes to one's marriage, there's a little or no maintenance until the marriage breaks down. We are incompatible and I need a new spouse.
hmm,
Even if you get a new spouse or a new car and continue to neglect the maintenance, it's going to have the same results.
that's right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Now
yeah,
you see that. I think people have
yeah,
seen that
yeah,
you cannot neglect your
yeah,
wife. You cannot neglect your husband. And
yeah.
and yet people they'll put their jobs, they'll work 3 jobs and say I'm doing it for my wife. No, you're not. You're doing it for yourself. Uh,
Correct.
so then you got your hobbies. Then you got your church services. You got all this. So you neglecting your spouse, and or so say, well, I'm going on a missionary. I'm going on a our church is having a missionary trip. I'm going for 2 months, husband. And you didn't even ask him. You just say I'm going. And come on now. I see
Not
that's
in my house.
but Bev, I'm telling you, I've seen it happen
Not
over
in
and
my
over
house.
again.
My
Over and
husband will not go
over
for
and
that.
over again. And they don't want to hear. And this is they justify. Watch this. The Lord told me. The Lord told me to go on this. So the Lord told you. You telling me the Lord is telling you to leave your husband, to leave your children, and to have him do all that while you serving the Lord on the mission field. No, your first priority is to serve your family. Before God made the church,
Yes,
he made the
that's
family. And shame
correct.
on
Correct.
people who put others before their spouse. And God has blessed us. You know, it's been 42 years now since November 14th. It's been
Yes,
42 years now. And
Michelle.
what a
Yes,
journey. I know my
yes.
wife, she says, Norman, I love you. I thank God for you.
Aw,
Yes, she does. And
aw.
she knows how much I love her and
Yeah,
care and and just let her know by my actions, how much I love her. Many times I want to get her stuff, and sometimes she said, I don't want that. I can
I
tell
know.
you
Yes,
that my
yes.
wife was so committed After 5 weeks, she asked me this question. I believe I put it in the book. She asked me, when were we getting married? I was so insecure. I never asked her to marry me because I didn't want to get hurt. And but when she said, when we get married, in my inside of me, it was like they was doing jumping jacks, jogging.
So I'm gonna quote one more thing,
Okay, go ahead.
and then we're gonna try to wrap it up because
All right.
the hour is coming to an end. So unconditional love says, I love you and I care to please and serve you. This is more than a duty. When
Yes.
a husband serves out of duty, what happens when there is a major disagreement? What happens when he feels disrespected and ignored? Since he is not being rewarded with a check or of respect or a check of attention, the husband is inclined to say his marriage is over.
Hmm.
What happened when the husband only served his wife out of duty, like a job? The marriage will collapse.
And that's what the Bible says. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. And he,
Amen.
if you remember, Christ prayed for the church. He cared for the church. Uh, he he showed
Mm,
mercy on on the church,
yes.
forgave the church. So that means husbands, when your wife burned the food, you gotta forgive her for burning the food. If she cooks, right? Come on, and not say, "Oh, you burned my dinner."
You burned
Yeah,
the
come on, you got to. And then ultimately, he died for the church. As God is not saying, "I want you to die for your wife," but you can die to some things that are detrimental to your relationship. You can die to
Amen.
that.
Amen.
All right.
Amen. So let me go over the
Okay.
role, the wife role.
The wife has so much power that she don't realize what she has. I wouldn't be the pastor I am today if it wasn't for my wife. When I was asked to be a deacon, the church asked me to be a deacon. I couldn't pay my water bill, and they asking me to be a deacon in the church. I said, if I, they come to cut off my water, and they asking me to be a deacon in the church. I said, yeah, just because you see me at church, you don't know what goes on at home. You only see me uh, only on Sunday. But you don't
Mm,
see me on my job. You don't see
mm,
me in the
mm.
community. All you see is church. My wife sees me every day. She sees my strong points. She sees my weak points. And and I knew that I had to ask her, and this was I had to ask her, do you think I'm a leader? And I
Mm.
waited for some time to ask her that because
Yeah.
knowing my wife, she would tell me the truth, and whatever that says, I would believe it. If she
Right.
says I wasn't a leader, I said, well, I'm not going to be a deacon in the church. Why? Because if
No.
my wife don't see me as a leader, then how can the church see me as a leader?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Before I know I time. Oh man, my wife's been my biggest cheerleader
Yes.
from before we got married, and even
Hmm.
today, she's been my biggest cheerleader.
Yes, yes,
And I
yes.
believe I'm her biggest cheerleader.
And it shows, and
Oh,
it shows, and it shows. You're such a wonderful example, a wonderful, couple to look up to. You have the years, you have the experience. We know you're both women, men and women of God. Your
mhm.
children, you can see
Yeah,
it in the way how they carry themselves.
yes.
So I just so thank you today, Pastor Norman,
Oh,
for
thank
just
you.
sharing your nuggets of marriage with us. Close out for tonight, Pastor Norman. I
Yeah.
know everybody wants to hear what you have to say, and I know you have so much meat and
Mhm.
wisdom oozing out, but
Oh,
we have to.
I
And
understand.
so
Thank you,
thank
Bev,
you again for
for
everyone.
having me.
My name again, Beverly Francois, the owner and friendly consultant of BSF Designs. And I just want to give a major shout out today to the sponsor. The sponsor today, and I had it on Facebook for those of you, everything that I'm talking about today, you can actually find it on Facebook. You don't have to go anywhere outside. You can go on Facebook or Instagram. You also can check out my YouTube channel, BSF Design YouTube channel. All of the video, the lives and everything is also recorded on YouTube. So you can check us out on all platforms. And so today, the sponsor for today is IKF Cleaning Solution LLC. They are a cleaning company and they do commercial cleaning, contract cleaning, floor cleaning, and they are awesome. They are a local PA company, so
Mhm.
you can always reach out to them. Their numbers 215 501 6058. Check them out. IKF Cleaning Solution
Mhm.
LLC. And without a further ado, it's time to go, guys. I look forward to seeing you next week. And next week, we're going to have Lydia Robinson as our
Oh,
special guest. She is
okay.
the founder of Snap Co. Dance Move in the
Oh,
house.
yes.
Yes, we'll be learning a lot about Snapco and her awesome nonprofit organization where she has on Germantown Ave a beautiful dance studio that she helps kids and adults in dancing and arts. So I look forward to you guys next week.
Okay,
Until
Bev.
bye now.
God bless you.